Mark had it all: a good wife, a warm home, and a woman who believed in his potential even when he didn't believe in himself. Sarah wasn't loud, she wasn't flashy, and she didn't demand the world. She simply stood by him, through every failure, every setback. For years, she was his quiet strength, the soft place he landed when life hit hard. She didn't realize that every breakfast she made, every shirt she ironed, every time she listened to him complain about his job, she was pouring love into a man who was slowly drifting away. Not because she changed, but because his ego grew bigger than his gratitude. He started feeling too comfortable, too admired, too certain that Sarah would always be there. He began to crave excitement, validation, and the thrill of being wanted by someone new. Someone who didn't know his flaws, someone who only saw the polished parts of him. So while Sarah planned their future, Mark scrolled through his phone, searching for distractions. While she laughed at his jokes, he checked his messages. While she dreamt of vacations, he fantasized about a life where he felt young again. And the saddest part? She still smiled at him, unaware that her loyalty was slowly being taken for granted. Because to Mark, her love became background noise. Always there, always steady, always reliable. But to Sarah, loving him was a choice. A choice she made every single day. A choice he never thought she'd stop making. Sarah wasn't just a wife. She was Mark's anchor long before he even realized he needed one. From the moment they met, something about her steadiness drew him in. She wasn't the loudest woman in the room. She wasn't the kind who needed constant attention or admiration. She was warmth in human form, the kind that made you breathe easier without knowing why. In the early years, Mark used to brag about her. He'd tell his friends, "Sarah is different. She's the kind of woman who builds with you." And he wasn't wrong. Sarah believed in foundation, not fantasy. While other couples competed over flashy dates and extravagant gifts, Sarah and Mark built their love through small things like late-night talks, shared goals, and mutual dreams of a simple, peaceful life. Mark's career was always unstable. One month he had a job he loved, and the next, he'd come home with a resignation letter crumpled in his fist. He chased opportunities the way some people chase adrenaline, impulsively, without caution, without a backup plan. Money came, money went, and through it all, Sarah stayed consistent. When he lost his job the first time, he panicked. He felt like a failure, a disappointment, a man who couldn't provide. But Sarah held him through it all. She reminded him gently that his worth wasn't tied to his paycheck. She picked up extra shifts. She cooked his favorite meals. She sat by him during long nights when he stayed awake, questioning his future. Sometimes he pushed her away in frustration, but she stayed anyway, knowing his anger wasn't for her. It wasn't just financial troubles. Emotional storms came too. Mark carried old insecurities from childhood, being overlooked, feeling unimportant, never feeling good enough. Sarah listened. She became the safety net for wounds she didn't cause. She encouraged therapy, encouraged positive routines, encouraged him to find what made him feel alive. And every time he stumbled, she offered him her hand, her patience, her comfort. That was Sarah's love, quiet but fierce, soft but strong. Not showy, not dramatic, but consistent, stable, and present. There was a year when things were especially rough. Mark had launched a small business with a partner who eventually bailed, leaving him with debt and disappointment. They were months behind on rent. Bill collectors called so often that Sarah stopped flinching when the phone rang. Instead of blaming him, she brainstormed solutions. She researched grants, suggested part-time jobs, cut their expenses down to the minimum. She even sold some of her jewelry, not because Mark asked her to, but because she saw him drowning and refused to let him go under. She didn't complain once. Mark never forgot that. At least, not in those early days. He'd hold her hand and say, "One day, I'll give you everything you deserve." She believed him, because she believed in the goodness she saw in him. And for a time, he meant those words. As things gradually improved, Sarah continued pouring love into him. She celebrated every small victory he had, the interview he nailed, the new client he secured, the day his confidence returned enough for him to smile again. She was his biggest cheerleader, even when cheering exhausted her. She shielded him from judgment, from doubt, from the world's unforgiving expectations. And while she supported him emotionally, she also supported him mentally. She encouraged him to go back to school, to take courses, to dream again. She proofread his applications, updated his CV, and practiced interview questions with him. She'd sit across from him at the dining table, laptop open, tired from her day at work, but still determined to help him push forward. Her love was effort, daily effort. There were mornings when she woke up early to make him breakfast before he left for a long shift. Nights when she stayed up past midnight making sure he arrived home safely. She celebrated all his wins, no matter how small, with the enthusiasm of someone who believed deeply in the person she loved. And she didn't just support him, she protected the relationship. When friends told her Mark wasn't ambitious enough, she defended him. When her family questioned why she stayed during the rough seasons, she insisted they didn't understand the side of him she saw. When Mark doubted himself, she became his voice of faith. But loving him was not without a cost. Sarah sacrificed parts of herself slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. The hobbies she loved faded into the background. The trips she dreamed of were postponed again and again. The career she wanted to pursue was placed on hold because the family needed stability first. She adjusted her life so much to fit his struggles that, over time, she became the backbone of a relationship that leaned heavily on her strength. And though Sarah didn't see it, the very strength she offered so freely was slowly feeding Mark's ego. Not in a way that made him grateful, but in a way that made him comfortable. Too comfortable. The more she did, the less he noticed. The more she sacrificed, the more entitled he became. He didn't realize that her support was not a given, it was a choice. A daily choice. Over the years, Sarah's love became something Mark relied on, not like a gift, but like a guarantee. And that's where cracks began to form. Because what you take for granted, you stop valuing. And what you stop valuing, you risk losing. And when he eventually met someone who made him feel younger, someone who adored him without knowing his flaws, someone who didn't remind him of the years he'd failed, Mark's ego lit up. Sarah had spent years holding him together, and he would soon throw it all away, chasing the illusion of being needed by someone new. But what he didn't know was that life was preparing him to learn that. No one loves deeper than the woman who stood beside you during your lowest moments. And no one leaves cleaner than the woman who's finally had enough. Mark started to change. It began subtly, almost silently, the kind of shift you don't notice until it becomes too loud to ignore. He started coming home later. Not drastically at first. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. He always had an excuse ready. Traffic, overtime, unexpected meetings, a client who just wouldn't stop talking. Sarah believed him because she trusted him. She didn't question where he was or what he was doing. She simply welcomed him home with a tired smile and warm food waiting on the stove. She thought life was simply getting busier now that things were improving for him. But life wasn't getting busier. Mark was getting distracted. It started with small behaviors. Him turning his phone face down when he placed it on the table. He muted notifications. He stepped outside to answer calls he claimed were work emergencies. He guarded his phone the way people guard secrets. At first, Sarah brushed it off. She didn't want to be the paranoid wife. She didn't want to assume the worst. She didn't want to believe that after everything they had survived together, Mark would throw it away. But something in her spirit knew. One evening, he came home smelling like perfume, subtle, floral, not hers. She forced herself to smile as she served dinner, her hands slightly trembling. She watched him eat quickly, barely tasting the food she had spent an hour preparing. He scrolled on his phone throughout dinner, laughing occasionally at something on the screen. Something or someone. "Long day?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," he said without looking up. Traffic was insane. She wasn't angry yet. She wasn't suspicious. She was scared. Because a woman always knows when her partner's heart has started traveling somewhere else. A few days later, she found a receipt in the pocket of his jeans while doing laundry. 2 drinks. 1 appetizer. A bar they used to visit. The date on the receipt was a night he told her he was working late. Still, she stayed silent. Not because she was weak, but because she hoped he'd correct himself before she had to confront the truth. Sarah believed people should have room to make mistakes, to reset, to choose the right thing before danger became destruction. But Mark wasn't choosing the right thing. The breaking point came on a quiet Thursday evening. Mark had fallen asleep on the couch after leaving his phone unlocked. Sarah picked it up gently to move it to the table so it wouldn't fall. The screen lit up. A message preview appeared. "I miss you already. Last night was perfect." Time froze. Her breath caught in her chest. The air around her felt heavy. Everything inside her shattered in one silent second. Her hands trembled, her vision blurred, her heart thumped painfully against her ribs. Sarah didn't open the message. She didn't need to. One sentence was enough to confirm everything her heart had suspected. She placed the phone down gently, quietly, as if it were made of glass. She stared at Mark sleeping peacefully, unaware that the woman who had loved him more than he loved himself had just broken. She didn't wake him. She simply walked into the bathroom, sat on the floor, and cried silently, tears flowing down her face as she held her hand over her mouth to muffle the sound. Because even in heartbreak, Sarah didn't want to disturb him. She didn't sleep that night. She didn't confront him the next morning. She simply moved through the day like a ghost, her heart bruised, her mind running riot. The confrontation came a week later, not because she planned it, but because the truth forced itself into the open. Mark came home late again. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair messy, his smile a little too wide. Sarah stood at the door waiting. "Who is she?" she asked calmly. Mark's smile evaporated. His face tightened. "What are you talking about?" "Don't lie to me," she whispered. "Please, don't lie." He looked away. That was the moment Sarah knew. The silence was louder than any confession he could have given. The truth stood between them like a shadow that would no longer be ignored. Finally, he muttered, "Her name is Emily." A younger woman, 23 years. New intern at his office. Bright, energetic, impressed by him. Everything Sarah used to be before life responsibilities weighed her down. "She makes me feel alive again," he said defensively. A sentence that shattered her soul into dust. Sarah felt something inside her collapse. Not her worth, but her trust, her memories, her years of sacrifice. "So I wasn't enough?" she asked. Mark hesitated. That hesitation was her answer. The argument that followed wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't dramatic. It was heartbreaking in its quietness. Sarah didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She didn't curse him. She just looked at him with tears she tried desperately to blink away. "I gave you everything," she said softly. "How could you throw me away so easily?" Mark didn't have an answer. In that moment, he wanted both, the comfort of Sarah's loyalty and the thrill of Emily's attention. He wanted to feel desired without feeling accountable. He wanted excitement without responsibility. But life doesn't work that way. You need to leave, Sarah said with a voice that broke even as she spoke. Leave? He repeated. Yes, she whispered. If you've already built a world with her in your heart, there's no room left for me. And in that moment, Mark made a decision he would regret for the rest of his life. He chose the younger woman. He chose excitement. He chose ego over loyalty, pleasure over principle, fantasy over foundation. He packed his things in silence. Not because he was proud, but because a part of him knew he was making a mistake, yet pride wouldn't let him admit it. When he walked out the door, Sarah didn't chase him. She didn't beg him to stay. She didn't try to compete with the woman who stole his attention. She simply said one final sentence. I hope she's worth everything you're about to lose. He left feeling triumphant, thinking the worst part was over. Feeling younger. Feeling desired. Feeling like he had upgraded his life. Little did he know, he had just walked away from the only person who truly loved him. And life, in its quiet, merciless fairness, was preparing to humble him in ways he never imagined. When Mark walked out the door, he didn't look back. Not because he was brave, but because he was too proud to face the destruction he caused. He stepped into the night air with a strange sense of relief, as if he had escaped a life that felt too predictable, too demanding, too familiar. He thought he was walking toward happiness, but in reality he was walking away from home. Sarah, meanwhile, watched the door close with a silence that felt louder than any scream she could have released. Her chest tightened, her throat burned, her knees weakened, yet she didn't fall. She stood perfectly still, staring at the empty hallway where he used to kiss her goodbye every morning. The house suddenly felt too big, too quiet, too cold. For the first time in years, she realized she was truly alone. That night, she didn't sleep. Her pillow soaked with the quiet tears of someone who doesn't know whether to mourn a marriage, a future, or the woman she used to be before heartbreak hollowed her out. She lay awake replaying memories. Their first date. Their first apartment. The nights she stayed up caring for him when he was sick. The sacrifices she made to help him through failures. The promise he made to love her forever. A promise he broke for a thrill. Sarah wasn't angry yet. Anger is loud, sharp, and immediate. But heartbreak is slow, suffocating, and painfully quiet. She wandered through the house like a ghost, touching the empty side of the bed, staring at the wedding photo on the wall, running her fingers over the mug he always used. Every room whispered his absence. She didn't eat. She didn't answer calls. She simply existed, suspended between shock and sadness. While Sarah drowned quietly in heartbreak, Mark was out celebrating his new life. Emily, young, energetic, naive, had convinced him he was special. She laughed at all his jokes, told him he looked younger than his age, praised him for the smallest things. Mark was enjoying it all. Mark went places he hadn't been to in years, bars, lounges, restaurants where men in midlife crises pretended they were still 25. Emily didn't know the real him. She only knew the version he allowed her to see. Confident, charming, exciting. And Mark loved it. He loved feeling admired. He loved feeling validated. He loved the illusion of escaping responsibility. Friends warned him quietly, "Be careful. You're making a mistake. You're throwing away a good woman." But he dismissed them all. "I deserve to be happy," he said, masking selfishness with justification. He didn't realize happiness built on betrayal is temporary. He mistook excitement for connection. He mistook lust for love. Sarah faced her reality. After days of numb silence, she forced herself out of bed. Not because she was ready, just because life demanded it. Bills still needed to be paid. Dinner still needed to be cooked. Work still expected her presence. She looked at herself in the mirror, eyes swollen, face pale, hands trembling, and whispered, "Get up. Just get up." And she did. Not gracefully, not confidently, but bravely. She started by cleaning the house, removing Mark's clothes from the closet, folding them neatly into bags. Not out of anger, but because she couldn't bear to see them. She deleted photos. She unfollowed him. She removed his contact from speed dial. Her hands shook through every step. But she kept going. At work, she forced smiles. At home, she held herself together with quiet strength. At night, she cried silently into her pillow so the neighbors wouldn't hear. But the thing about heartbreak is, it breaks you open. And when you're open, healing has space to enter. Mark's excitement with Emily was intoxicating at first. But slowly, Mark noticed little things. She became clingy. She wanted constant attention. She was jealous of his time. She questioned his decisions. She spent money carelessly. She didn't want responsibility. She wanted fun. Whenever he talked about bills, savings, long-term plans, she got bored. When he opened up about his fears or failures, she didn't know how to support him. She wasn't used to the weight of a grown man's realities. Mark had mistaken admiration for love. Slowly, frustration crept in. He began comparing her to Sarah, quietly, shamefully, unwillingly. She never made breakfast. She never listened deeply. She didn't understand struggle. She didn't know how to comfort him. What he once called exciting now felt exhausting. But Mark kept pretending everything was fine. Admitting regret felt too humiliating. Sarah begins to rebuild herself as the weeks and months passed. And somewhere in the middle of all that pain, Sarah began finding pieces of herself she had abandoned years ago. She took long walks after work. She joined a support group for women recovering from heartbreak. She read books she never had time for. She restarted hobbies she had paused for years: art, cooking, journaling. She cleaned her home not to remove Mark, but to make space for herself. Her smiles became real again. Her laughter returned in small doses. She started sleeping through the night. She took better care of her body, her mind, her soul. Heartbreak changed her. Not instantly, but steadily. And then one day, she woke up and realized she wasn't waiting for Mark to come back. She wasn't hoping he'd regret it. She wasn't replaying the betrayal anymore. She was healing. Though Mark and Sarah were far apart, the contrast in their lives showed. Mark laughed loudly at bars. Sarah cried quietly at home. Mark posted pictures with Emily, pretending he was living his best life. Sarah healed quietly, with no audience. Mark chased temporary thrills. Sarah rebuilt permanent strength. Mark ran from himself. Sarah ran toward growth. Mark lived in denial. Sarah lived in truth. And life, silently, patiently, watched them both. Because life knows something people often forget. What you choose in moments of ego determines the pain or peace that waits for you later. Mark had chosen ego. Sarah had chosen healing. Their paths were destined to depart even further, until eventually they would collide again, not as lovers, but as lessons. For now, Mark celebrated, blindly, proudly, foolishly, while Sarah quietly, slowly, beautifully began to rise. Life has a quiet way of warning you before it destroys you. But Mark didn't hear the whispers. He was too busy celebrating a victory he never truly won. Months passed, and the shine of his new relationship slowly dulled, like cheap jewelry losing its sparkle. What once felt exciting now felt tiring. What once made him feel young now made him feel drained. What once felt like freedom now felt like chaos disguised with lipstick and perfume. Emily, The very woman he left everything for started revealing pieces of herself he never saw during the honeymoon phase. Not because she hid them, but because Mark was too blinded by excitement to look deeper. And that's where the undoing began. The first crack. One evening, Mark and Emily were at a restaurant he and Sarah used to visit. Emily scrolled through her phone the entire time, laughing at memes, taking selfies, texting friends. She barely looked up during their date. Mark felt a pang of irritation. When Sarah was with him, she was with him. She didn't need constant validation from social media. She didn't use a phone to escape the present moment. He brushed the thought aside, but it lingered like a stubborn stain. The second crack came a week later when Emily exploded over something small, a misunderstanding, a tone, a forgotten promise. Mark couldn't even remember the specifics. What he remembered was the shock of it. Emily shouted, "Chris, through things," stormed out of the apartment. Mark sat in stunned silence. Sarah never raised her voice like that. She communicated. She breathed through the conflict. She tried to understand. He began to understand the difference between a mature woman and a girl pretending to be one. But the biggest crack, the one that shifted everything, came quietly. One night, he opened the fridge and realized there was no food. He looked around the apartment. Clothes everywhere. Dishes piled in the sink. Trash overflowing. Emily was on the couch scrolling her phone, chewing gum loudly. "Aren't you going to clean up?" he asked, not angrily, just confused. She looked at him as if he had insulted her. "I'm not your maid," she snapped. "If you're hungry, cook. If you're tired, sleep. We're adults, not a married couple." Something inside Mark twisted painfully. For years, Sarah had been the backbone of his life, cooking, cleaning, supporting, managing the household, nurturing the relationship, and loving him through storms Emily would never have survived. Yet he never appreciated her. It hit him like a slow, suffocating truth. He didn't fall out of love with Sarah. He fell out of gratitude. Then came the next blow. Mark's company announced major budget cuts. His position wasn't terminated, but his hours were reduced, and his overall income dropped sharply. He panicked. With Sarah, financial storms were manageable. They faced them together. They problem-solved. They strategized. Sarah held him up when life knocked him down. But with Emily? Emily didn't understand struggle. The moment he told her about the reduced hours, she stared at him, stunned. "Wait, you're earning less?" she asked slowly. "Yes, for now," Mark replied. "But So who's going to pay the rent?" she interrupted. Mark felt something sink inside him. "I thought you loved me," he whispered. "I do love you," she said. "But love doesn't pay bills. I'm too young to be dealing with this kind of stress." That's how she saw him. As stress. Not a partner. Not a man she loved. Not someone worth building with. Just stress. She walked out that night, leaving him alone with his bills, his reduced paycheck, his messy apartment, and the crushing realization that the woman he had chosen had never been choosing him. Mark was lonely. He tried reaching out to friends, old college buddies, guys from work, even casual acquaintances. But the calls always ended the same way. "Bro, you messed up. Why didn't you try harder with Sarah? You left a good woman. You can't complain about the outcome." No one pitied him. No one comforted him. Because everyone saw what he was only now beginning to see. He had abandoned the one person who truly cared for him. And life was making him feel every inch of that loss. Day by day, loneliness crept into his life like a cold draft sneaking under a locked door. He'd come home and sit in the dark, listening to the emptiness. No laughter. No warm meals. No soft voice saying, "How was your day?" He opened old photo albums and saw pictures of him and Sarah smiling, holding hands, celebrating small victories. Memories of someone who loved him deeply, consistently, wholly. He felt something ache inside him, a longing mixed with regret so sharp it physically hurt. He whispered her name once, just to hear how it sounded in a quiet room. Sarah? The silence that followed was louder than her voice ever was. One evening, Mark checked social media, and his world tilted. Sarah had posted a picture. She was smiling, radiantly, peacefully, beautifully. Not the forced smile she used to wear for him, but a smile that spoke of freedom, healing, and a life no longer defined by his presence. She was standing with a group of new friends. Her hair was styled differently, her clothes more vibrant, her confidence unmistakable. Sarah was happy, truly happy. Without him, Mark stared at the photo for a long, painful minute, his chest tightening with a mixture of loss, guilt, and disbelief. This wasn't the woman he left behind broken. This was a woman reborn. And in that moment he felt small, insignificant, forgotten. He had walked away thinking she'd crumble. Instead, she bloomed. He had chosen excitement over loyalty. Instead, he found emptiness. He had chosen youth over substance. Instead, he found immaturity. He had chosen ego and lost everything. Weeks later, Emily walked out for the final time. "No offense, Mark," she said, packing her things, "but being with you feels like babysitting someone who refuses to grow up. I need someone who has his life together." He almost laughed. He did have his life together once, when Sarah was in it. Emily slammed the door, leaving him in the same silence Sarah once stood in. Life had come full circle, but this time, he was the abandoned one. He sat on the floor, head in hands, heart pounding painfully. He cried. Not because Emily left, not because he was alone, but because he finally understood. He didn't just lose Sarah. He lost the version of himself she helped lift. He lost the life she helped build. He lost the love she gave freely. And deepest of all, he lost the chance to ever be loved like that again. Because once a loyal woman heals from your betrayal, there is no returning to her. Not as a partner, not as a friend, not even as a memory she cherishes. You become the lesson she uses to teach others about self-worth. Healing doesn't arrive like lightning. It arrives like a sunrise, slowly, gently, quietly, until suddenly the darkness you were drowning in becomes a memory. And that's what happened to Sarah. In the months after Mark left, she did not transform overnight. She didn't magically become strong or unbreakable. No, she rebuilt herself grain by grain, moment by moment, breath by breath. And that is the kind of healing that lasts. Her slow rebirth started with little things. She changed the curtains. She rearranged the living room. She threw away the old plates they bought together and replaced them with simple, elegant ones that reflected who she was becoming. She didn't try to erase him. She simply made space for herself. Every morning, she opened the windows, letting sunlight pour into the home that once felt suffocating. She breathed deeply, reminding herself, "I survived. I am surviving. I will thrive." Her reflection in the mirror changed too. Her eyes grew brighter. Her skin glowed. Her posture straightened. One day, while brushing her hair, she smiled at herself, really smiled, and realized she had gone a whole week without crying once. That was when she knew she was finally stepping out of the shadows of her past. Sarah rekindled passions she had buried while trying to hold her marriage together. She returned to painting, the hobby she loved before life became about Mark's moods and needs. Her canvas soon filled with vibrant colors that mirrored her rediscovered joy. She joined a fitness class, not because she wanted to change her body, but because she wanted to reclaim it. She made friends, women who had their own stories of heartbreak, resilience, and rebirth. Together, They laughed, vented, healed, and supported one another. She tried new things too. Every small act of trying again became a step toward rediscovering herself, not as Mark's wife, but as Sarah. And for the first time in a very long time, she felt free. Sarah's career started to blossom. The emotional weight lifted off her shoulders created space for professional growth. With renewed focus, she excelled at work, earning the respect of her colleagues and the attention of her supervisors. She attended a seminar on personal development that revived her leadership skills. The instructor noticed her potential and encouraged her to apply for a management position opening. Sarah hesitated at first, but she remembered how many times she told Mark, "You can do it." Now she needed to tell herself. And she did. She applied. She interviewed with confidence, calmness, and clarity, qualities she had once used to support Mark through his own interviews. 2 weeks later, she got the job. The day she was promoted, she didn't cry from sadness. She cried from joy. Because she realized she hadn't just rebuilt her life, she had elevated it. While Sarah rose, Mark began to fall. The woman he left everything for had abandoned him. His finances continued to crumble. His friendships faded. His confidence evaporated. He tried to date again, but no one stayed long. Not because he was a bad person, but because heartbreak had humbled him in ways he wasn't ready to admit. Every new woman he met asked the same questions. What happened with your ex-wife? Why did the relationship end? Why did you leave her? His answers sounded hollow even to his own ears. Mark realized something painful. It is hard to build a future when you abandon the person who built your past. He saw her again by accident. Mark saw Sarah at a grocery store, standing in the produce aisle, laughing with a friend, looking healthier and happier than he had ever seen her. She glowed. Not because of makeup, not because of another man, but because she was finally at peace. Mark stood frozen at the end of the aisle, unable to move. His chest tightened. His throat went dry. His heart pounded. She didn't look bitter. She didn't look damaged. She didn't look broken. She looked beautiful. Beautiful in the way a woman looks when she realizes she needed herself more than she ever needed the man who hurt her. Sarah didn't notice him at first. But when she did, her eyes widened for a brief moment, not from pain, not from longing, but from surprise. Then she smiled. A polite, distant smile. A smile that said, "I'm not angry. I'm not hurt. But I'm not yours anymore." And then she returned to her conversation. That moment shattered Mark far more than any argument, scream, or accusation could have. Because the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is indifference. That night, Mark went home and broke down completely. He sat on the floor, head in his hands, and let the tears flow, heavy, painful, relentless. He cried for what he did. He cried for what he lost. He cried because he finally understood the value of the woman he replaced. He cried because Sarah had healed without him. He cried because there was no path back. Regret has a cruel timing. It arrives only when you can no longer fix what you broke. And Mark's regret was a tsunami. He whispered her name into the darkness. "Sarah, I'm sorry. But apologies can't rebuild bridges that betrayal burned down." His tears were too late. His realization came too late. And deep down he knew it. Sarah's true breakthrough didn't happen when she got promoted, or when she laughed again, or when she redecorated the house. Her breakthrough happened the day she realized. She no longer needed closure. She no longer needed answers. She no longer needed Mark's apologies. She had become her own closure, her own healing, her own home. Sarah didn't just survive. She evolved. In the end, life has a way of revealing truths we try so hard to avoid. For Mark, Life humbled him when he realized the simple truth that you can replace attention. You can replace excitement. You can replace moments. But you can't replace a real soul. Our real soul doesn't just love you. It grows with you, fights for you, and stands by you when the world turns its back. A real soul doesn't leave when things get hard. A real soul doesn't crumble when storms hit. And that's what Sarah had been all along. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't flawless. But she was real. If you're watching this today, let this story remind you. Never underestimate the power of loyalty. Never take genuine love for granted. Please subscribe, like and share to family and friends.